Yo, what is up, guys? So we're here to check out the Altergeist, the competitive version of the deck, because recently, guys, it got first place in OCG. And anyways, the builds are a little bit different. I know we just actually talked about Altergeist the other day, so if you guys are interested in seeing some gameplay of the archetype, I'm going to leave it down below in the description box. But this is the deck profile for, again, the first place deck. And it wasn't just like an obscure, only one person got like first place with it. There are several different builds of Altergeist, and there is a difference between TCG and OCG. Obviously, we don't have 3 Max C due to our ban list. However, obviously, we can make some adjustments to that. I mean, we got Solemn Judgment, which might be an okay card in there, and also talk about some other cards that you guys can put in here. Now, as far as the extract goes, because we're main decking the Ghost Reaper, there are a lot of cards here, like, for example, like Heavy Metal Foes Electrum, which you're not going to be making. It's actually used to counter your opponent. Now, this archetype is a very slow deck. However, the OCG, they just love, like, this card, the Personal Spoofing, which is a really interesting card. I haven't seen anyone play this in the TCG, but again, I guess they're more ahead of us in terms of competitive Altergeist. But yeah, this is a completely different build, and we'll talk about other cards that you can play in the deck. Obviously, like I said, we're going to have drop maxis if you are playing in the TCG. But anyways, let's go ahead and go into the deck profile, then I'll briefly explain the deck. So anyways, the deck is a very slow control-based archetype where all your effects will not be able to be negated because Protocol is a pretty insane card. And then on top of that, you're going to be bouncing things back over and over, Silky Toss. Now, there is another card, Kunqueri, that we actually don't even play any copies of. In fact, in multiple different deck profiles in the OCG, they just didn't play him at all. And I think it's a good card. I thought that they would have played at least one with Personal Spoofing because it works so well with this card. But anyways, let's get into the deck profile, and we'll explain things as we go along so you guys can kind of maybe understand the deck a little bit better, because, again, this is a completely different build and a different playstyle compared to the Kunqueri builds. But anyways, we have 3 copies of Marionetter. But anyways, this is the only card I think that you actually really want to normal summon. A lot of them, you just get their effects regardless of if they're just summoned or special summoned. This is the only one, again, that's like a normal summon effect. But anyways, the Marionetter has the effect where when it's normal summon, you get to set a Altergeist spell, and you can set 1 Altergeist trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap zones. At the moment, I don't think that there's any Altergeist spells, is there? Yeah, we don't have any spells as of right now. Who knows, maybe in the future we will get some, but yeah, you can just basically set a trap up. And then we have 3 copies of Multi-Faker, which is basically what makes the deck. So Multi-Faker makes it so whenever you activate a trap card, and that doesn't have to be an Altergeist trap card, just any trap card, you can go ahead and just special summon this card from your hand, and then when it's special summoned, you get to special summon another Altergeist monster from your deck in defense position except for itself. Now, Marionetter also has another effect where you get to target 1 Altergeist card you control and another Altergeist monster in your graveyard. You send that card in the field to the graveyard. If you do, you get to special summon that monster. So basically, this lets you kind of call the Haunted in a sense. You basically get rid of 1 of your cards, and then you get out anything, and then this card gets you anything from the deck. Well, that is a monster. You can't get spells and traps. Again, there's no spells for the archetype anyways. We're basically maxed out on the hand traps here, guys. We got 3 copies of Ash Blossom, 2 copies of Ghost Ogre, 2 copies of Ghost Reaper. That's why the extra deck, again, has some of these cards. So you're like, well, how are you supposed to make this card? You're not. But we also have a Silky Toss, 2 copies of him, and then we have 3 copies of Maxi, so we're just maxed out again on those hand traps. I just want to move the Silky Toss over here so you guys can see all the hand traps. If I can move this over here. There we go. There we go. So yeah, basically maxed out on hand traps, but only 2 copies of each, the Ghost Ogre and the Ghost Reaper. But this card is super popular right now in the OCG. I have not even seen one person main deck this in the TCG for the past I don't know, week that I've been playing online. I have not seen one person run this in the main deck. I don't know, maybe their meta, their meta is a little bit different with the whole plant link thing. This card's a pretty important card, and when you get rid of it, it's a pretty big deal. But depending on the archetype that you're playing against, this card could be a neg 1. I will definitely say that. Technically, it does allow you access to needle fiber because, it can suit there as the tuner, but more than likely you're not going to be doing it. But sometimes you need to get that Ghost Ogre, and you can actually get rid of it from the field. It doesn't have to only be a hand trap, but at the end of the day, I don't know if you actually do that, but there are times where it can be irrelevant. For the most part, like I said, the extra deck, you can go into, some of the cards you can go into, but more than likely, the extra rate doesn't get touched very often in this deck, with the exception of Hextia, but we'll get into that when we get into Hextia. So anyways, we're playing 2 copies of Silky Toss, so this one is a really good effect. As a quick effect, you can return 1 other Altergeist card you control to the hand, then you can target 1 card your opponent controls, and you get to return to the hand. So basically, you're able to bounce back things. Now, one really cool thing that you can do if you opt to, obviously, we're going to have to drop Maxi here in the TCG because it's completely banned. So you can actually run like a lot of different things. There's Monster Reborn. I mean, I know it's a little bit of an awkward card, but still, dude, it's Monster Reborn. That card is like almost always viable. And yeah, this card gets its effect whenever it is special summoned. It doesn't have to be special summoned via an Altergeist card to get that effect. But anyways, Silky Toss lets you just bounce back things. It's one of the most annoying cards, basically a really key card in the deck. Then we have 3 copies of Mellow Seek. So this can almost be a win condition by actually just getting your opponent down in life points. But whenever it inflicts damage, you're able to, and it can attack directly. You get to target 1 card your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. That's actually much better than just like destroying, because yeah, it's pretty good because it won't proc a lot of other effects. And then on top of that, if it's sent from the field of the graveyard, you get to add any Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand except for itself. But that's pretty much it for like the monsters. I mean, the monsters are going to reoccur. You have cards like Materialization that are going to come back, and then you also have Personal Spoofing that lets you just get back another Altergeist card. And if you happen to have like dead cards, Personal Spoofing can definitely be a really good card. Now, unfortunately, Personal Spoofing is not an Altergeist. Like it's not like Altergeist Personal Spoofing, which I really wish it was. That way, it would allow you to like not have multiple of these, because like I generally wouldn't want to have multiple personal spoofings, but I mean like in the same hand, like turn 1 I wouldn't want to do like triple personal spoofing, which can be a thing. It's obviously a very low chance, but like I just don't like having multiple copies of personal spoofing, just because, well, I mean, I know it lets you cycle through a card, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's really good just to have 1 at a time. But anyways, next up we're playing 2 copies of Desires, 3 copies of Duality. In fact, this deck does special summon once. It's like once or twice per turn, but it's usually during your opponent's turn, because you can activate cards like Materialization, where you're able to special summon from the graveyard, and then this one, when special summon, you get special summon on another one. But yeah, Duality definitely works out well in the deck because, again, it's more of a control-based deck. Next up, we're playing another newer card, Infinite Transience over here, which lets you target a face-up monster opponent controls. It has its effects negated until the end of the turn, and then if this card was activated while it was set, you get to negate everything in the same column. It's actually a pretty cool effect. And then if you control no cards, you get to activate it from your hand. So it really helps out going like, second turn if your opponent already establishes a board. In fact, this card has been really popular in the TCG. That card in like evenly matched. I'm sorry, the OCG. This card's really popular. In the TCG, I've seen it here and there, but evenly matched is basically what like can destroy this deck, because if you set like a bunch of cards turn 1 and they just go evenly matched, it's really unfortunate. However, with personal spoofing, you're able to get another card out of your field because you're recycling it anyways, and it's going to be in your hand. So keep in mind, when evenly matched or struggling battle gets activated, you do have a little bit of play with this card. Anyways, we've got 2 Materialization. This is the one where you're able to, again, special summon an Altergeist monster, and then whenever this card leaves the field, you destroy that monster, but then also you get to banish from it your graveyard, turn an Altergeist trap in your graveyard, and add it to your hand. So basically it resets some of your stuff. This one, what's cool with this one is it can actually be itself when you banish it. Pretty good stuff. But the most important card, the card that like really makes the deck, with the exception of Multi-Faker, is also like Protocol. Protocol is insane. So what it does is makes so the activation and effects of Altergeist cards activated on your field cannot be negated. So basically, every play that you do is normally pretty safe. And then in addition to that, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you get to send 1 other face of Altergeist card. You control the graveyard to negate that activation. So basically, this is a control-based deck, like I said. But anyways, you can only use this effect once per turn. So basically, you have once per, like, a lot of times what it comes down to, you have a bounce back, and then you also have a negate effect. And then we have 3 copies of Personal Spoofing. This card I was talking about before, which I have not seen people play at all, but it's really popular over there. So it lets you just bounce back one from an Altergeist card from your hand or your field, and then you get to search out any Altergeist monster. So that's pretty insane, because this one lets you search out any of the traps. So you guys can see. Well, again, Personal Spoofing does not happen to be part of the Altergeist text in the name. I really wish it was, but yeah. Anyways, Next up, we have the Psalm lineup. The Psalm lineup would be pretty much the same in the TCG. We would just put in one extra copy of Psalm Strike and then remove one copy of Warning. So it's pretty much the same. As far as extract goes, like I said, majority of the cards you don't really need them, with the exception of Hexia. That's why we played 2 copies of it. Again, this is an OCG build. This is not my build, by the way. Again, this is the guy that got first place. But anyways, Altergeist, Hexia, and of course 2 Altergeist monsters, which that's pretty easy. But it also gains attack equal to the original attack of each Altergeist monster it points to. So you're able to again activate this, get out a monster, and then gain some additional attack. Most of the stuff is pretty mediocre, but this is like kind of the go-to card in the deck. But anyways, whenever a spell trap effect is activated, you contribute 1 Altergeist monster this card points to negate the activation, and then you can destroy it. And if it's sent from the field of the graveyard, you get to add an Altergeist card from your deck to your hand. So this searches out pretty much everything. Again, except for, again, personal spoofing. I just wish this card was part of the archetype. But anyways, again, this is pretty much like your extra deck card. And like I said, a lot of the archetype really comes down to just negating everything that your opponent would do. You have Protocol to stop monster effects. You have this to stop spell and traps, but most of the stuff is like safe anyways. And then you also have Silky Toss to, of course, bounce back. Or Silquitas? I guess is that they changed the text a little bit there, but same name pretty much, same pronunciation. But we got a Boreal Dragon, a Firewall Dragon, Tremor Griffin, Unicorn, Phoenix, Heavy Metal Foes left, which you'll not be able to make. We have Akshak Magician, Tremor Cerberus, we got, of course, the Double Hexia, 1 Crystal Needle Fiber. This is really good against plants because of the Ghost Reaper, but plants are pretty much irrelevant. If you guys want to add in, maybe drop one of these cards, we also have Security Dragon, Link Spider, and Link Karibo, but if you want to drop any of these cards, I would play at least 1 Hexia. That's like the most important card in the archetype. But you can drop something else if you would like to. I would probably keep this card as well, the Heavy Metal Foes Electrum. Again, this is for Ghost Reaper, but I would definitely consider ABC Dragon. That deck seems to pop up once in a while in the TCG. I definitely do see that quite often. But like I said, since this is a deck where we're going to have to modify it because of the new ban list, we got the addition of like, well, not 1 for 1. 1 for 1's always been there, but like cards like Monster Reborn. Surprisingly, guys, a lot of people aren't playing Monster Reborn in the OCG. It's crazy. Like, they have Feather Duster. They happen to have, like, it's crazy. They still have Feather Duster. Oops, Feather Duster in the OCG, and they're just not playing these because they're just not good enough, I guess. It's crazy. I mean, I personally would just, I see how it's Feather Duster, and I'm like, yeah, throw that in for sure. Especially against decks like this where they can have so many back row. I just don't know why. It's their play style, I guess. But Monster Reborn, even though like I said, there's not like that many insane cards that you can really get out. I mean, Multi-Faker is really good. And it would technically proc its effect. In the OCG, Monster Reborn is still legal, and they still don't play it. I guess, I don't know, maybe for consistency. But, I mean, you can go through the deck relatively fast. With the searchability, I don't know. You guys can let me know your thoughts on Monster Reborn. I definitely like 1 for 1 in the deck, because it helps you get out Mellow Seek early if there's a problematic card, and just lets you get that early game advantage. I like 1 for 1 in the deck myself. I'm just not a real fan of slower-based archetypes, and again, this is all about being as slow as possible, and Multi-Faker really makes the deck a lot better in that aspect, where you're able to actually go for some Link monsters. Now, this card does have a downside where you can only special summon Altergeist monsters when you activate that effect, but a lot of times, again, you're going to be special summoning during your opponent's turn, therefore, it doesn't matter, because it goes back to your turn, you're going to be able to make some stuff. Again, it's not the most common thing to go into your extra deck, with the exception of Hexia. But for the most part, you can make these things. It's not like it's impossible, and sometimes for the right scenarios, it can work out. But anyways, like I said, let me know, guys, what you think of this build of it. Again, this is like the competitive version of the deck. Most of them are not playing any copies of Kunteri, oh, I'm just gonna type in Altergeist because I don't know how they spelled it, because the name did get changed. Kunqueri, and there's also Kadolga. Again, they just didn't play that. But I thought, you know what, I thought it was really good. I mean, if you guys want to play like a copy of this, I thought it's really good with personal spoofing, because it lets you just add any Altergeist monster in. And with Kunqueri over here, whenever your opponent's monster activates or declares the attack, if you control another Altergeist card, which the whole bit archetype, you can special summon it from the hand, negate that attack, and then if it's special summoned, you get to target one face-up card your opponent controls and negate the effects of that card while this monster are face up, it is face up on the field, maybe it's a better text, but anyways, you guys get the idea. So you get to negate the attack, and then on top of that, you get a monster with 2400, which you obviously you can like, you know, use that as material for stuff, and then also you get to negate another face up card your opponent controls. It's not just a monster. So I just like the utility that Quinqueri has. Like this, both these cards I think are really great in the deck. Again, if you're playing this in the TCG for the new Banlist. And if you want to throw in Solemn, it might not be like the worst thing to do. One thing that this deck can definitely lose to is the evenly matched card, because that card is insane. But a lot of times you are able to bounce certain things back, so keep that in mind as well. It can definitely help out sometimes when that card is activated. And also, again, personal spiffing can kind of help out with those cards, because those cards are still definitely pretty popular. But anyways, that's it for the deck profile. Let me know your guys' thoughts. And once again, if you guys want to see gameplay of it, because I just uploaded gameplay recently, just like, in fact, just a few days ago, of the Altergeist archetype. It's pretty much the same deck. However, there are a few additions. And again, a lot of people that saw this, like, I was saying the deck is pretty viable, because I didn't think it was a very strong deck. Then I'm like, okay, it actually is pretty viable. And now it's getting first place in OCG. There's multiple decks too. Again, it's not just like one obscure deck that just random first place deck. There's several different Altergeist decks in the top 32 over there in the OCG. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, drop a like on it, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button for more Yu-Gi-Oh videos.